Every Marine officer at the rank of ensign and above is permitted to wear the white coat with justice emblazoned on the back. It drapes over the shoulders like a cape, arms never through the sleeves, as if the concept of justice is something you carry but never truly inhabit. But what makes the admirals fascinating when you take a deeper look at all of them individually is that four men can wear the exact same word on their backs and mean four completely irreconcilable things by it. And yeah, I know that Sakazuki is not an admiral anymore, with him being the position of fleet admiral currently. But for the sake of this video, and my personal fascination with him, I'm going to cover him alongside the three admirals in this video. Sakazuki represents that justice is the annihilation of all threat, real or potential. Borsellino represents that justice is whatever I'm told it is today. Don't make me think about it. Isho represents that justice is the protection of people, even from the institution that claims to protect them. And Aramaki represents that justice is hierarchy, and hierarchy is God. This isn't an accident. Oda is using the Marines and the Admirals specifically to make a structural argument about institutions. An institution doesn't need its members to agree, it needs them to obey. The coat is a uniform, and uniforms are designed to make different men look the same, but they're not the same. They have never been the same. And the deeper we go into the final saga, the more violently their differences are erupting. Before we can compare these men, we need to understand what each one actually believes. Sakazuki's motto is an extension of absolute justice, the Marines' institutional orthodoxy. In practice, thorough justice means to eliminate the possibility of evil, not just its manifestation. It's not enough to stop the crime. You destroy the conditions that could produce it. You burn the field so nothing grows back. During the Buster call on Ohara, Vice Admiral Sakazuki ordered the destruction of an evacuation ship carrying civilians and fellow Marines. His logic behind that, if even a single scholar had managed to board that ship, the entire operation, the sacrifice, the Buster call, the lives already spent, would have been for nothing. The government's explicit orders were to eliminate scholars, not civilians. Sakazuki exceeded those orders on his own initiative. This is critical. He didn't follow a command. He interpreted it, and his interpretation was, the margin of error for evil must be zero. Kuzan, standing nearby, called him a fool and an idiot for overdoing things. When the young Marine Kobe stood on the battlefield and begged the Marines to stop fighting, the war was functionally over. Ace was dead, Whitebeard was dying. Sakazuki's response was to attempt to execute him on the spot. A Marine. A boy. For the crime of asking for mercy. In Sakazuki's moral framework, mercy in wartime is desertion, and desertion is death. Sakazuki deliberately provoked Ace by insulting Whitebeard, knowing that Ace's love for his captain was the one lever that could stop his escape. Ace had to die not because of what he'd done, but because of who his father was. Goldie Roger. Heritage, in Sakazuki's worldview, is a form of pre-crime. Sakazuki has alienated nearly every moral actor in the Marines. Kuzan resigned, rather than serve under him after a 10-day duel on Punk Hazard. Garp tried to kill this man after Ace's death. Fujitora openly defied him on national broadcast. The man built the most powerful version of the Marines in history. Jinbei himself acknowledged that the Marine HQ became far stronger and more determined under Sakazuki, but he built it on fear, not loyalty. Sakazuki cannot conceive that the institution itself might be the source of evil. He yells at the five elders. He calls CP0 the celestial dragon's puppets. He clashes with the world nobles. But he never takes the next logical step. If the system you serve produces Doflamingo, protects the celestial dragons, and covers up Ohara, maybe the system is the disease, not the cure. He is a man who can see corruption everywhere except in the mirror. Borsellino's motto translates more precisely as non-committal justice, the justice of a man who refuses to pick a side. He describes himself as a cog in a machine, and he means it as both an explanation and a defense. He arrives at Sabori to handle the straw hat situation, and proceeds to casually annihilate 4 supernovas with minimal effort, individually defeating each with single attacks. He knocks down a mangrove by accident and brushes it off. He politely asks fleeing pirates who just shot at him if they can help him find his acquaintance. The violence is absolute, but the demeanor is empty. There's no anger or conviction behind his actions. He might as well be filing taxes. During the siege of Egghead, after Luffy collapsed from the exhaustion of Gear 5 and cried out for food, Kizaru, who was supposed to be incapacitated, secretly got up at light speed, delivered food to Luffy, and returned to feigning injury. He did this while Saturn was present. He did not defy his orders openly. He did not declare rebellion. He just quietly made sure the one person capable of saving Bonnie and Vegapunk had enough energy to try. This is the most Kizaru action imaginable. Passive resistance disguised as inaction. Kizaru had known Vegapunk for 26 years. They traveled together. They ate pizza together. Vegapunk studied Kizaru's devil fruit and built the Pacifista program from his lasers. They raised Sentomaru together, and when the order came to kill Vegapunk, Kizaru carried it out. He told Luffy he didn't want to do it. He told Vegapunk he wished he'd brought darker glasses to hide his emotions, and then he stabbed his oldest friend through the chest with a sword of light. Afterward, he lay on the deck of a marine warship, broken. When Sakazuki contacted him and questioned his performance, Kizaru, the calmest, most easygoing man in the entire series, snapped. He called Sakazuki an ungrateful brat, tears in his eyes, furious that the fleet admiral could not understand the weight of what he'd just been forced to do. Sakazuki, stunned, apologized and called him brother. Kizaru has sacrificed his own soul. Not metaphorically, functionally. He has spent decades executing orders he doesn't believe in, and the egghead incident finally broke the dam. He killed the person closest to him in the world, because he lacked the courage to say no. He fed Luffy because he lacked the courage to say yes. He exists in the space between those two failures. Kizaru believes that by removing himself from moral responsibility, I'm just a cog in a machine, he is absolved. But the Egghead arc proves the opposite. A cog that turns the machine is complicit in everything the machine does. Kizaru's unclear justice is a coping mechanism. And at Egghead, it stopped working. Isho's justice motto translates as virtuous justice, or justice with humanity. He is the only admiral whose ideology explicitly centers the people rather than the institution. Where Sakazuki asks, "Is this lawful?" and Kizaru asks, "Is this my problem?" Fujitora asks, "Are people being protected?" After Doflamingo's defeat at Dressrosa, Fujitora gathered his marines and prostrated himself before King Riku III on live broadcast, apologizing on behalf of the world government for allowing a warlord to enslave an entire kingdom. This was deliberate political sabotage. Sakazuki wanted to spin the narrative, claim the marines handled Doflamingo, take credit for the liberation. Fujitora made that impossible. By broadcasting the apology, he forced the world to see what the warlord system had produced. A tyrant with government protection. Sakazuki's response was to ban Fujitora from every marine base until he captured Luffy and Law. Fujitora was content with this, because his opinion of marine justice was already in the gutter. He did not try to defeat Doflamingo in Dressrosa. He explicitly bet on Luffy to do it, because a pirate saving a kingdom from a government-sanctioned warlord was the most damning indictment of the system possible. When Luffy fled afterward, Fujitora lifted the rubble of Dressrosa into the air. Not to attack, but to drop it on Doflamingo's pursuing allies as a farewell gift. Then comes one of my single most favorite scenes in media. He said he wished he hadn't blinded himself, because he wanted to see Luffy's face. Let that sink in. An admiral of the Marines, expressing regret that he can't look at the pirate he just deliberately let escape. Fujitora conspired with King Riku and King Cobra of Alabasta to push for the abolition of the 7 warlords of the sea at the Reverie. He succeeded. He also, during the Revolutionary Army's assault on Mary Jo, permitted freed slaves to escape with the revolutionaries rather than recapture them for the celestial dragons. An admiral of the world government helping slaves flee the world government's masters. But Fujitora's idealism has a ruthless edge that people often overlook. He let Dressrosa burn while waiting for Luffy to beat Doflamingo. Citizens died during the birdcage. He was powerful enough to intervene and chose not to, because the long game, exposing the warlord system's rot, mattered more to him than the immediate crisis. His morality is real, but it's also a gambler's calculus. He rolls dice to decide whether to pursue Luffy. He treats political reform like a bet at the roulette table. There is something cold underneath the compassion. Fujitora's self-blinding is the most symbolically rich act of any admiral. He gouged out his own eyes because he had seen too many things he didn't want to see. The atrocities of the world government, the warlords, the celestial dragons. But blindness is also a limitation. He is trusting. He was nearly swindled by Doflamingo's thugs at a roulette table because he took their word for where the ball landed. His faith in people, in Luffy, in Riku, in the possibility of reform, is beautiful, but it may not survive contact with the full truth of the Void Century. What exactly will happen to a man who blinded himself to escape the world's evil when he learns that the evil goes all the way to the bottom? Aramaki's motto translates literally as, "Justice if it kills me," but a more accurate read might be, "Justice through total commitment to hierarchy." Aramaki is in many ways the simplest admiral. He is also in many ways the most disturbing. In Wano, after draining the imprisoned beast pirates with his devil fruit and marching toward the flower capital, Aramaki delivered one of the most chilling monologues in the entire series. Humankind has lasted through the ages by creating and defining the inferior. All the rest of us can look down our noses at you unaffiliated countries. Discrimination creates solace. He is openly endorsing a caste system with the celestial dragons at the top and everyone else ranked by their proximity to power. He told the people of Wano they have no human rights because they are unaffiliated with the world government. He said it doesn't matter how many of them die because the law doesn't apply to them. Aramaki arrived in Wano uninvited. Sakazuki explicitly told him not to go, and proceeded to attack the imprisoned, still recovering remnants of Kaido's crew, including King and Queen. He impaled dozens of them with tree branches and drained their moisture, leaving them as shriveled husks. These were not active threats. They were prisoners, and he brutalized them not for justice, but to prove to Sakazuki that he was worthy of praise. When Shanks, from a ship miles outside of Wano, unleashed a burst of Conqueror's haki, Aramaki was instantly paralyzed. Shanks telepathically told him to leave, and Aramaki, the man who had just declared that discrimination creates solace and the strong rule the weak, obeyed immediately. He didn't fight. He didn't stand his ground. He ran. The ideology of the strong collapses the instant someone actually stronger shows up. Aramaki has no relationships built on genuine respect of what we know. He idolizes Sakazuki, but Sakazuki is very displeased and exasperated by him. He picks fights with Fujitora when Fujitora shows mercy. He brutalizes the defeated and flees from the strong. His determined justice is performance. A man desperate to prove he belongs in a role that terrifies him. He can't see that his ideology is self-refuting. Discrimination creates solace. Is a philosophy of power. The strong create categories to justify their dominance. But the moment Shanks' haki hit him, the categories evaporated. If strength determines right, and Shanks is stronger, then by Aramaki's own logic, Shanks' judgment supersedes his. He doesn't believe in justice. He believes in approval, and he'll adopt whatever philosophy gets him the most of it. Sakazuki follows the institution's spirit. He exceeded orders at Ohara because his interpretation of absolute justice was more extreme than what his superiors actually commanded. He didn't need permission to destroy the evacuation ship. He decided the mission's logic demanded it. This is the most dangerous form of obedience. The subordinate who out-radicalizes his commanders, because he believes in the cause more than they do. As Fleet Admiral, he now yells at the Five Elders and calls CP0 the Celestial Dragon's puppets. He is loyal to justice, not to the bureaucracy. But his justice is indistinguishable from totalitarianism. Kizaru follows orders without question, but also without conviction. He is the perfect institutional weapon, a man who will do whatever he's told, feel whatever he needs to feel afterward, and show up for work the next day. His unclear justice is the justice of compliance. He doesn't ask whether the order is right. He asks whether it's his responsibility to care. The answer until Egghead was always no. The genius of Egghead is that Oda finally forced Kizaru to confront what compliance costs: your best friend's life. Fujitora follows personal morality above institutional command. He is the only admiral who has explicitly, deliberately, and publicly defied the system from within, not by leaving like Kuzan, but by staying and fighting. He bowed to Riku. He let Luffy go. He abolished the warlords. He freed slaves. He exploits loopholes when direct defiance is too costly, like entering Mary Jo while technically banned from marine bases. He is a reformer wearing a soldier's coat. Aramaki performs loyalty for approval. He went to Wano against Sakazuki's direct orders because he thought capturing Luffy would earn him praise. He told his subordinates not to inform Sakazuki about what he was doing. He hid his actions from his own superior while claiming to act in that superior's name, and Sakazuki, to his credit, sees through it. The spectrum here is pretty crazy. From the man who exceeds orders out of conviction, to the man who follows them from surrender, to the man who defies them from principle, to the man who breaks them from desperation for love. Same institution, same rank. Well, not counting Sakazuki, 4 entirely different relationships to the concept of duty. The world government in One Piece is corrupt. This is not debatable. The celestial dragons keep slaves. The Void Century is a cover-up. Ohara was an extermination. Doflamingo was a state-sponsored tyrant. The question is not whether the system is rotten, it's how each admiral metabolizes that rot. Sakazuki is knowingly complicit, but furious about the parts he can't control. He will argue with the Five Elders. He'll call them out for the Doflamingo cover-up. He despises the Celestial Dragon's interference, but he will never take the next step and question the system itself, because the system is his identity. He is a man standing inside a burning house, complaining about the thermostat. Notably, he did not reprimand Fujitora for freeing the Celestial Dragon's slaves at the Reverie. Kizaru is complicit through apathy. He has seen the rot. He has been inside the system for over 30 years, since he and Sakazuki enlisted together as young men. He watched Kuma be dismantled. He befriended Bonnie and then tried to kill her. He is the admiral who has been closest to the system's victims: Vegapunk, Kuma, Bonnie, Sentomaru, and did nothing to stop their suffering until it was far too late. His tears at Egghead are real, but they are the tears of a man who chose his paycheck over his principles for 3 decades. Fujitora is trying to reform the system from within. He joined the Marines through the world draft knowing exactly how corrupt the world government is. He blinded himself because of it. His strategy is political. Use his admiral rank to push for structural change, like abolishing the warlords, build coalitions with sympathetic rulers, and publicly embarrass the government when it tries to control the narrative. He is playing the long game. Aramaki doesn't just tolerate the rot, he endorses it as theology. He calls the world nobles gods. His discrimination creates solace speech was a moral argument for hierarchy. He believes the strong should rule the weak, the affiliated should dominate the unaffiliated, and the celestial dragons sit rightfully atop the whole pyramid. He is the only admiral who has expressed genuine ideological alignment with the world government's most monstrous features. He's definitely not complicit, he's a true believer, but in the ugliest possible version of the faith. Luffy is the walking counter-argument to everything the Marines stand for. He is a criminal by every legal standard, a liberator by every moral one. How each admiral responds to Luffy reveals the limits of their ideology. Sakazuki sees Luffy as an existential threat defined by bloodline. He almost always refers to Luffy as Dragon's Son. Luffy's danger to Sakazuki is not what he's done, it's what he represents. The son of the world's most wanted revolutionary, the grandson of a Marine hero, the inheritor of Joy Boy's will. Sakazuki's obsession with Luffy at Marineford bordered on the pathological. He ignored Blackbeard actively destroying Marineford to chase a single teenager. Luffy is everything Sakazuki's framework cannot process, a person whose justice comes from love, not law. Kizaru sees Luffy as a nuisance who gradually became something more. At Sabaody, Kizaru dismissed Luffy, mocking his weakness. At Marineford, he hounded Luffy while destroying the key to Ace's handcuffs. But at Egghead, something shifted. Kizaru told Luffy he was impressed by the man he had become, tried to avoid fighting him, and secretly gave him the food that enabled Gear 5's return. Kizaru didn't save Luffy out of heroism. He saved Luffy because Luffy was the only person in the room who might save the people Kizaru was too cowardly to protect himself. Bonnie, Kuma, Sentomaru. Luffy is Kizaru's conscience made flesh, the version of courage Kizaru never had. Fujitora sees Luffy as proof that the Marines are wrong. From the moment Luffy helped him at the rigged roulette table in Dressrosa, Fujitora was charmed. He declined to exchange names so that their inevitable conflict wouldn't be personal. He bet on Luffy to defeat Doflamingo specifically because a pirate saving a kingdom from a warlord would expose the system. He laughed at Luffy's absurd combat style. He thanked Luffy for cleaning up the government's mess. And he said, with aching sincerity, that he wished he hadn't blinded himself so he could see Luffy's face. Fujitora loves Luffy, not as a friend, but as evidence. Luffy is the data point that validates Fujitora's entire theory of justice. Aramaki sees Luffy as a trophy. He went to Wano to kill Luffy because he thought it would impress Sakazuki. He didn't care about justice, about threat assessment, about the geopolitical implications. He wanted the scalp, and when Shanks' haki stopped him, the trophy hunt ended instantly. Because the hunt was never about Luffy. It was about Aramaki's desperate need to be seen as powerful by the one person whose approval he craves. Sakazuki is consolidating power for a war he sees coming. He moved Marine HQ into the New World. He instituted the World Military Draft. He made the Marines stronger and more aggressive than they've ever been. But consolidation is not vision. Sakazuki is preparing for the current conflict, pirates versus Marines, while the actual conflict is between the world government and the truth of the Void Century. He is building a fortress to fight the wrong war. Kizaru is in crisis. The Egghead incident shattered his equilibrium. Kizaru has been pushed to the edge of a moral cliff. He can either continue being a cog, or he can become a person. The tears at Egghead were the first crack. Where that crack leads is one of the final saga's most compelling open questions. This is Oda's cruelest trick with Kizaru. He gave us a man who seemed immune to moral weight, then slowly revealed that the immunity was just dissociation. Kizaru always cared. He just learned long ago that caring was dangerous in the Marines. Fujitora is the only admiral actively building the future. Abolishing the warlord system was not a personal victory. It was a structural reform designed to outlast him. He conspired with kings, worked within political channels, and created a precedent that an admiral can publicly hold the world government accountable and survive. He is planting seeds. Whether those seeds grow depends on what comes next, but the act of planting them makes him unique among the four. Aramaki is clinging to an order that's already collapsing. His worldview, hierarchy, discrimination, the divine right of celestial dragons, is exactly the ideology that the eventual truth will demolish. He worships gods who are about to be exposed. He is the last true believer in a religion that Vegapunk's broadcast has already begun to dismantle. His future is either conversion or extinction. What drives a man to burn children on an evacuation ship and sleep soundly? The answer is not sociopathy, it's faith. Sakazuki is a true believer in a cause that requires monstrous acts to sustain itself. He doesn't enjoy cruelty. He endures it because he believes the alternative, a world where evil proliferates unchecked, is worse. His childhood design shows him as a grim boy, carrying a dagger in tattered clothes, wearing a cap with justice on it. He has been this person his entire life. I would not dub him a monster, but he is something along those lines. And the story tells us that he was forged into one by a world that convinced him mercy was weakness. There are theories that Sakazuki's childhood, the tattered clothes, the dagger, the grim face, suggests he came from poverty or violence, possibly a victim of piracy. If true, his hatred of pirates may be rooted in personal trauma, not abstract ideology. A boy who watched pirates destroy everything he had, who decided the only solution was to become the fire that burns brighter than the one that burned him. Is unclear justice a philosophy or a coping mechanism? After Egghead, the answer is clear. It's the latter. Kizaru is a man who abdicated moral agency because moral agency was too painful. He is the most powerful weapon the Marines possess. A man who can move at light speed, fire lasers, and casually defeat entire generations of pirates. And he chose to aim that weapon wherever he was pointed, no questions asked, because asking questions meant having to live with the answers. His devil fruit is a perfect metaphor. Light moves in straight lines, it bounces off surfaces. It illuminates but has no weight, no substance you can hold. That's Kizaru. Brilliant, fast, everywhere and nowhere at once, illuminating everything and committing to nothing. Speed without direction, as one might put it. At Egghead, the light finally hit something it couldn't pass through, his own grief, and for the first time in 30 years, it stopped. Kizaru's Vivre card describes his personality in detail, confirming his laid-back nature and formal speech patterns. He is the oldest of the current admirals at 58. The question the final saga must answer: is Kizaru a broken man or a sleeping one? What exactly does Oda have planned for him? A Kizaru who wakes up, who stops being a cog and starts being a person, could reshape the entire marine power structure. Why did he blind himself? A blind man cannot be shown false evidence. A blind man is underestimated. A blind man who compensates with observation hockey, that reads the emotions and intentions of everyone around him is, in fact, seeing more clearly than anyone in the room. His blindness forced him to develop the one sense that can't be deceived: the ability to perceive what people feel, not what they show. The Vivre cards and wiki confirm that Fujitora was formerly the military chief of the destroyed Aoi kingdom, and became a war criminal during its destruction. This is a massively underexplored detail. Fujitora has already been what Sakazuki and Aramaki still are: a man of violence serving a state. He blinded himself not just because of the world government's evil, but possibly because of his own. His humane justice may be atonement. There's also the gambler in him. He treats life as a game of chance, rolling dice, going all in, betting on Luffy. This is a man who has made peace with uncertainty. In a story where the world government demands absolute control over truth, a man who embraces randomness is inherently revolutionary. Aramaki is the youngest admiral at 41, a former police officer from the Taya Kingdom who was imprisoned for a great incident involving a woman before being drafted. His backstory is thin, and we don't know much yet, but we can make assumptions along the thin lines we've been given. This is a man whose pre-marine career already involved an abuse of power and ended in punishment. His devotion to the world nobles as gods reads less like sincere belief and more like the desperate faith of a man who needs the hierarchy to be real. Because if the hierarchy is real, if the celestial dragons are actually divine, if the strong actually deserve their power, then Aramaki's position as an admiral is earned. His ideology legitimizes his existence. I agree in some ways that Aramaki is a fascist in a sense, a man who worships strength because he has no other source of meaning. His devil fruit is parasitic. It drains life from others to sustain him. He hasn't eaten in 3 years. He feeds on the moisture of his surroundings. Even his biology is extractive. He takes from the world rather than contributing to it. He is, in One Piece's symbolic language, the opposite of Luffy, a man who consumes rather than liberates. Step back from the four men. Look at the rank. What does it mean that the Marines can contain Sakazuki, Kizaru, Fujitora, and Aramaki simultaneously? Four men who disagree on literally everything, within the same ranks. It means the rank is not about justice. The rank is about force. The word on the coat is not a mission statement, it's a brand. The Marines don't need their admirals to agree. They need them to fight. As long as the admirals point their violence outward, at pirates, at revolutionaries, at anyone who threatens the world government's monopoly on power, internal disagreements are irrelevant. Sakazuki can hate the celestial dragons, Fujitora can free their slaves. Kizaru can secretly feed the enemy. Aramaki can worship the world nobles as gods. None of it matters, because all four of them, when the order comes, will deploy. This is Oda's argument about institutions. An institution does not need to be just. It needs to be powerful. Justice is the justification for power. The Marines fundamentally exist not to protect people, but to protect the order that allows certain people to exploit other people. But who is closest to actual justice then? In my eyes, it's for sure Fujitora, by a wide margin too. He is the only admiral whose ideology begins with people rather than power. His humane justice is imperfect. The Dressrosa gamble had a body count, and his faith in reform may be naive. But he is the only one of the four who has consistently, at personal cost, chosen to protect the vulnerable over the institution. He abolished a system of state-sponsored piracy. He freed slaves. He let the hero escape. He is not without sin. But he is among these four, the closest thing to a good man. He has already done more damage to the world government from inside than most revolutionaries have from outside. He abolished the warlords. He embarrassed the government on live broadcast. He freed slaves. And he's still an admiral. The system cannot expel him without admitting he's right. Second place is Kizaru, not for what he's done, but for what Egghead suggests he might become. A Kizaru who stops running from his own conscience could be the most powerful force for change in the entire Marine structure. None of their current philosophies will survive the story. One Piece is building toward a world without the world government as we know it. The Void Century will be revealed. The Marines will have to choose, serve the truth or serve the lie. In that moment, Sakazuki's thorough justice dies, because the institution it served was built on a cover-up. Kizaru's unclear justice dies, because just following orders cannot survive the revelation that the orders were evil. Aramaki's determined justice dies the instant his gods are exposed as frauds. Only Fujitora's humane justice has a chance somewhat, because it was never about the institution. It was about the people, and people will still need protecting after the world government falls. The idea of justice that the Marines serve will have to be reborn. Humane justice does not require the world government to be legitimate. It does not require orders from above. It requires only one thing, that the person wearing the coat chooses to see the suffering in front of them and chooses to act. Because true justice was never about what you can see. It was about what you refuse to look away from, even in the dark. The four admirals each represent a different philosophical response to the question, what justifies power? And Oda's answer, delivered through 25 years of storytelling, is that nothing does. Power justifies itself, destroys what threatens it, and calls the destruction justice. The coat says justice. The coat lies. And the four men who wear it are four variations of the same tragedy. Brilliant, powerful, capable people trapped inside a machine that uses their strength to perpetuate the very evils they were told they were fighting. The only question remaining is which of them will take the coat off.